On today's Locked On Giants podcast, why it's not yet time for the New York Giants to press the panic button despite their inauspicious start. That and more coming your way next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. I'm your host, Patricia Traynor, credential member of the New York Giants media for Locked On, as well as for New York Giants on SI, which is where you can find my written work. And as always, welcome on in to my Blue Crew community members, my everydayers, my newcomers, and everybody in between. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, please, won't you consider subscribing to the channel? Click the little notification bell so that you are notified every time I post a new video. And like the video. All of it helps in the long run. And for those of you who listen to my audio broadcasts, if you would mind give a 5-star review, that would be appreciated. So that being said, again, welcome on in. On today's agenda, is it time to panic? Now, I have been on social media all week, which is part of my job, and I've read some of the comments of Giant fans directed to me, to other beat writers, just in general, just to kind of make sure that I'm keeping my finger on the pulse of the fan base. And I'm sensing panic. So we're going to discuss why it is not time to panic. I'll get to that and go into my reasons why I don't think it is time to panic yet about the state of the 2024 New York Giants. Then in segment 2, I mentioned Daniel Dilemma. This whole situation with Daniel Jones has kind of put the Giants at a crossroad. And I'm going to talk about that crossroad and kind of how I would play it out if I were the team. So we'll talk about that in segment 2. And then in segment 3, for those of you on YouTube who saw my video short about Malik Neighbors, I've got an update for you. And spoiler alert, folks, it's good news. So I'll tell you what I know about Malik Neighbors. I know a lot of you were worried about that when you saw that he was on the injured report with a knee issue. So I've got good news for you on that. All right, let's get into it. Why do I think it is not time to panic despite an absolute debacle of a season opener by the New York Giants on Sunday? I'm going to give you a few reasons. Number one, some teams coming out of the gate, ideally you want them to come out of the gate fast. Some teams take a little while to pick up. And before I make this comparison, I am in no way, shape, or form saying that the 2024 Giants are like the 2007 Giants, nor will they have the same fate necessarily as the 2007 Giants. But if you remember, the 2007 Giants, they got absolutely shellacked in their first 2 games. I forget exactly what the score was. I think it was like 80 to something. They were so grossly outscored. They looked so inept. And we were sitting there going, oh my goodness, this team's going nowhere. And what happened, folks? That team went on to win the Super Bowl. Now, I am not saying, again, that the 2024 Giants are the same team as the 2007 Giants. Not in the least. No way. But what I'm trying to get at is sometimes, you make a snap judgment. And you say, oh my gosh, this team looks really bad. Or, oh my gosh, this team looks so good. And then as the season plays out, things happen. And you say, oh, maybe it's not as bad as I thought it would be. Maybe it's not as good as I thought it would be. So you kind of have to let it play out a little bit to make a snap judgment. And I know they say that first impressions are everything, but to make a snap judgment, I don't know that I'm quite ready to go there. I know some of you probably are, and some of you have made up your mind that this season's going to be a long year, but I'm just not there yet. And I want to give you a stat courtesy of the NFL. They sent this over as part of their weekly notes that they sent to the media. Since 1990, 25% of the teams that lost their home opener in week 1 have gone on to make the postseason. Now, do I think this Giants team can make the postseason? Jury's still out. But I'm not giving up yet. I'm really not. Maybe, you're going to sit there and say I'm naive. You could say whatever you want, but there's just something about the way this team is. I go back and I look at last year, how Brian Daboll, despite the fact everything was falling down around him, how he kept the team competitive, how he kept the team in games, towards the end there. Theoretically, I mean, if the Giants had beaten the Jets, which they should have, if they had beaten the Bills, which they should have, and they had won, I think there was one other game I think they just barely lost that they should have won, they could have been in the playoffs last year, even as things were crumbling down around them. So whatever Brian Daboll's message is to the team, he keeps them competitive and he keeps them believing and kind of shifts away the focus from, okay, we've got problems at this position or that position or whatever. And he has them kind of believing in each other. And that's that locker room culture. And I know, folks, that doesn't necessarily calm a lot of your nerves. I get that. You're not in the locker room. You know what you see. I get that. I mean, we're not in the locker room all the time either. We only get 45 minutes a day, something like, 3 days a week. But I don't know. Maybe it's the optimist in me, but I think the Giants will play better this weekend against the Washington Commanders. I think they will be a lot more competitive. I think they have a chance to beat the Commanders. Yes, I do believe that. This is a team that the Giants have basically owned the last several years, and I get it. It's a new coaching staff. It's a new quarterback. I get all that. But, they've beaten the Commanders before with new coaching staffs and with new quarterbacks in there. And I don't know, there's just something about it that gives you hope that maybe this can be a get-right game for the Giants. So I'm choosing to be optimistic. And whether I'm being naive or foolish, well, time will tell. If I'm wrong, I'll be here on Monday when I do the game review. I'll be honest. I'll own it. But I'm really trying to think positive here and, just hope that this team gets their act together. Because if they don't, if they lose to the Commanders and start the season 0-2, I may have to retire my X account. Seriously. I mean, no, I won't retire it. I can't. But yeah, it's going to get ugly if they go 0-2 for sure, especially with that tough stretch coming up between weeks 3 and 8. So we'll see if the Giants can reach deep within themselves, band together, and fight back. That's going to tell us a lot about this team. Are they going to roll over and die? Or are they going to come out swinging and try to keep this competitive? The outcome or the answer to that question will tell us a lot about what this 2024 Giants team really is all about. All right, coming up next, I mentioned the Daniel Jones dilemma. We all know that Daniel Jones has struggled, but the whole situation has kind of put the Giants in a weird position this early in the season. And I want to talk about that coming up right after this. Hey, Giant fans, when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. They help you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but who might be open to the perfect role. 86% of the small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours when they use LinkedIn. And did you know that LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier? They've launched a feature that helps you write clear job descriptions, making the process easier and quicker. Find out why 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring by posting your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonNFL. That's linkedin.com/lockedonNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Hey, Giant fans, the new Locked On NFL is here. Locked On NFL is now 2 shows a day. First show up is the madman, Tyler Rowland, who kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. Then stop on by the barbershop for a visit with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Add in the Locked On local experts, and you get unprecedented NFL insight, hot opinions, detailed breakdowns, all in 30 minutes. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. Make the new Locked On NFL your second listen today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. And folks, unfortunately, no live stream this week, but we're hoping to do one next week. So stay tuned. As soon as I get information, I will, of course, let you know, as well as I'll let you know what is coming up next week on Locked On Giants. We'll probably have a better idea on that on Monday. But I do know Monday, of course, will be the show. We recap the Washington game. So we will break that down for you. And I will probably have that show out for you on Sunday night since it's a 1:00 game. 1:00 games are a little bit more friendly as far as getting stuff done. So I'll get that to you. All right. In this segment, the Daniel dilemma. Now, we all know about Daniel Jones and what happened against the Vikings. We know what we saw in the preseason game. We know what we have seen for most of the last 5 years. We know about the questions. But here's the problem as I see it. I mentioned wanting to be, confident that it's not time to panic. But here's what's interesting about this whole dynamic. I feel like the future of the franchise, or at least the upcoming year at any rate, lies on the shoulder of Daniel Jones. Because look, here's the situation. Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll have both committed to Daniel Jones as their starter. I believe that ideally they would like to give him as long of a leash as possible to see if he could maybe bounce back, and be the quarterback that they think he could be. All right. So, that of course would be the quarterback of 2022 when he led him to the playoffs. So far, we have seen that not to be the case. But see, here's the problem with the dilemma, if you will. John Mara basically said, as far as what his expectations are, he didn't attach a one-loss total to it. He didn't necessarily say playoffs or bust. He said he wants to feel good about the direction of the team by the end of the year. We have talked in the past about how progress is not linear. But here's the problem. If you're the Giants, do you really want to have another 6-11 or worse season? Is that necessarily progress? I don't think it is. Now, some will say, well, what if the 11 losses are, they're still competitive and they're not getting blown out? Well, you can make a case that that's progress, but still a win's a win and a loss is a loss, right? So as I see it right now, the Giants' dilemma with Daniel Jones is they're kind of torn, I think, between wanting to give him an opportunity to live up to the contract that he has versus, showing improvement. So they are, I think, of the opinion that Brian Daboll can get, more out of Daniel Jones than what we have seen, that he can get him on the right track and therefore start winning some games with him under center. But the problem becomes if we have another repeat like last week where the Giants get blown out and the offense scores only field goals and Daniel Jones looks absolutely lost, does it make sense if you're Brian Daboll to continue to give Daniel Jones a chance? Or do you say, you know what? We tried. We gave him all spring. We gave him all summer. We gave him a couple games. We got to go in a different direction. Because if we don't, and this continues, we're going to go down with the ship. It's really a sticky wick if you think about it. I mean, now to some of you, the answer might be crystal clear. You might say, hey, just go to Drew Lock, just go to Tommy DeVito and call it a day. I don't think it's that simple, folks. I really don't. because I do think the Giants, because of the contract, which again, they had to give Daniel Jones that contract. I've explained why in the past. Um, whether you agree with the reasoning is fine or disagree, that's fine, but they had to do it. Daniel Jones, they want to know, can he be the guy? They see how he works. They see him working his tail off. They see the respect he has in the locker room. But for whatever the reason, and I suspect his confidence is taking a hit, whether he wants to admit it or not, it's just not translating on the field. They are doing everything possible to make sure that his confidence is up and that he goes out there with a gunslinger mentality. We haven't seen it yet, but they are doing what they can behind the scenes to make sure that, the noise from the outside doesn't affect Daniel. And Daniel himself said this week, I don't really care about, what's said about me on the outside. I care about what's said on me on the inside. But again, if you're Daboll and Shane and you want to show John Mara that this organization's headed in the right direction, gosh, if Daniel Jones goes out there and struggles again and they lose to the Washington Commanders, what does that say? Especially again, I keep mentioning that stretch of games between week 3 and week 8. That's just an absolute brutal schedule. My gosh, that's a tough schedule, folks. So if you're Daboll and you're Shane, you say to yourself, okay, if we're a certain record by a certain point in the season, we better think about pulling the plug if this isn't working. Now, is that point at the bye week? Is that point, once they are eliminated from postseason contention and maybe the games in like late November or December aren't meaningful anymore? I don't know the answer to that. Only they know the answer. I do know that, despite the calls from a lot of fans to bench Daniel Jones, to give him a one-way ticket out of East Rutherford, it's not happening, folks. I suspect that, Jones will get not just this week, but probably the week after that. But I also find it very interesting that when Brian Daboll is asked about Jones, he avoids direct answers. All right. Take, for example, this week. When he was asked about Jones, it was, we all got to do better. We all got to do better. The standard party line. But ask him about Jaden Daniels and he gives you a decent answer. Ask him about Sam Darnold the week before, you get a decent answer. Instead of an answer like, good quarterback, but we're focused on ourselves. Something to that effect. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into it, but I can't remember really the last time Daboll spoke enthusiastically about the quarterback situation. And you throw in the fact that, they're facing Jaden Daniels this weekend, a guy who Daboll said he would trade up to get if he had his druthers. It tells you all you need to know about what the Giants probably think about their quarterback situation. But that said, right now, I think the feeling is that Daniel Jones gives them the best chance to win. Drew Lock is healthy. He can go in there if he needs to. But is Drew Lock really an upgrade over Daniel Jones? Everybody remember how Drew Lock looked before he got injured in the preseason game? Not very good, right? Is Tommy DeVito the answer? Tommy DeVito did well against, maybe some of the lesser teams last year, the exception being Green Bay. And then when he faced some of the better teams, what happened? No, they lost. They got, they basically had their lunch money taken from them. So it's really a mess. The quarterback situation's a mess. I personally think the quarterback of the future is not on the team right now, but I am curious to see how the Giants balance wanting to give Daniel Jones a fair shake and deciding, okay, look, we've got to show progress to our boss, John Mara, Steve Tisch. So we better think about making a move and going in a different direction. That, folks, is the big dilemma that the Giants face right now with their quarterback situation. How it plays out, well, we'll see. All right, coming up next, I've got some good news. I'm going to end the show and the week on some good news. Malik Neighbors, who was on the injury report. I'll tell you what I know about it right after this. Hey, Giant fans. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. And PrizePicks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. And before I get into the good news of the show, I just want to extend an invitation to everybody out there to join the Blue Crew community. The Blue Crew community is a group of exclusive insiders with whom I try to text with every day, both in terms of a group chat and then responding to individual chats. And a lot of times when you see the Q&A on this show, they're coming from my Blue Crew community members because it's a nice little unique community of Giant fans, win or lose. You know, they're in there, and it's just a special group. We get an opportunity to just, you know, hang out and talk and exchange ideas and whatnot. So check it out. Information is in the show notes. It's a free 14-day trial. If you like it, you do nothing, and then it's $4.99 a month. If you don't like it, you cancel before your trial ends, and you owe nothing. But at least try it out and see if maybe the information being exchanged and sent out by me is something that would be of interest to you. So again, information's in the show notes. You can also go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOn New York NY Giants podcast. All right. In this segment, Malik Neighbors, let's talk about him. His appearing on the injury report today being Thursday, was a bit of a surprise and also a bit of an alarm for some people, because the last thing you want is you want to see the team's #1 receiver on the injury report this soon, or if at all. So Malik Neighbors, just to kind of fill you in, he showed up on the injury report. He was seen limping around or walking very gingerly, I should say, in the locker room. And there was some question as to what was going on with him. He did his regular media session, but after that, you know, just was just off and limping, I guess, to the back to get treatment. From what I understand happened, during practice, he tightened up in the knee area and he reported it to a trainer. And because he is such a valuable asset, rather than let him, you know, continue practicing, they pulled him out. And they're like, we're not taking any chances. We're going to pull him out, get him treatment, and make sure that there's nothing brewing that's going to escalate into something to where he can't play. So that's pretty much what happened on the practice field from what I understand. Now, from what I also understand, whatever it is he has is not serious enough to warrant a trip for diagnostic testing. Right? They believe it's just tightness in the area. You know, behind the knee, you have, you know, the bottom of the hamstring. You've got other ligaments and stuff. So I don't know exactly where the issue was. They said knee, which could be, you know, any kind of ligament or whatnot. I know there are times when I wake up in the morning, and if it's like a damp morning or something like that, my knees hurt until I get them going, you know. So it happens. What I'm getting at here is that I do not believe Malik Neighbors is in danger of missing the game on Sunday. I would not be surprised if he continues to be limited in Friday's practice, just as a precaution. but I do think he will be ready for Sunday's game. I'd be stunned if he misses it. But right now, what I'm trying to get across is his ailment, whatever it is not something that they seem overly concerned with. They're just playing it cautiously with him, as they should, and as you would expect them to. So, a little bit of good news, I think, um, considering, how frazzled everybody's nerves are from what happened last week. Malik Neighbors, looking forward to playing against Jaden Daniels, even though they're not going to line up, across the field from each other. Looking forward, his team versus Daniels's team. Um, you know, so I'm not worried about it right now. Now, if something changes, obviously I will update you on it. But the general feeling, based on what information I've been able to gather, nothing to worry about. So go into your weekend, my fellow Giant fans, happy. Try to enjoy the weekend. I mean, I know some of you are dreading the game on Sunday because of what happened last week, but try to smile, try to be happy. Why let a bad game continue to linger and spoil your day? So that's going to do it for this edition of the Locked On Giants podcast. As always, thank you for spending part of your day with us. I'll be back on Monday with a recap and takeaways of the game on Sunday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you again for listening, and talk to you soon.